Welcome back to the Football Martin channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. Brand new series here on the channel this weekend. It's a two-part special coming your way. The Scouting Report. We are taking a closer look at two of our top talents that are out on loan at this moment in time. We're going to be looking at how Ronnie Edwards has been doing at QPR. We're going to be chatting with a QPR content creator in the second episode of this show. But in episode 1, we are focusing on Shea and how he's been doing at Sheffield Wednesday. I have the best guest coming on the show today. James from Wednesday Till I Die podcast is an absolute superstar. His content is brilliant. I asked him a couple of days ago if he'd come on the show, and I wasn't sure if he would do. And when he turned around and said yes, I was really excited because he's somebody that I wanted to talk to. He can give us a really good insight into Shea's performances at Wednesday this season, how he's done. I think it will also be really good to check in and find out a little bit more about the situation at Sheffield Wednesday. A lot of talk in January around Danny Rowell and whether he could potentially become the next Southampton manager. How are things there? And how's Danny Rowell done as a manager? What sort of system does Danny Rowell play? What could he potentially bring to Southampton Football Club if he came here? I've watched a little bit of Sheffield Wednesday this season, but James watches Sheffield Wednesday week in, week out. And that's why I've created this series to deep dive into these players to get a perspective from people that watch their club week in, week out. And that's what James does. Right, let's get into episode 1 of this brand new series here on the Football Martin channel, the Scouting Report Series 1. And here is James from the Wednesday Till I Die podcast. James, thank you very much for coming onto the Football Martin channel. First and foremost, where can we find you? Where is your content?
Yeah, so it's the Wednesday Till I Die podcast. So socials, it's at WTID pod. And yeah, we're on YouTube, we're on all the podcast platforms. Just search for the Wednesday Till I Die podcast. Sunday nights is a popular one, 8 o'clock, where you can find us usually moaning and whinging about the game that's just gone previously. But yeah, you can find us over there. Yeah,
James and his team are an absolute must follow. Brilliant content creators. When you look at the championship, without question for me, my favourite. So, yeah, you're brilliant. Keep up your great work. It's a pleasure to have you here. Absolutely delighted to have you on the channel today. I want to chat to you about a young man that's out on loan with you from Southampton at the moment. Young Shea. We loved him when he was here. He went out on loan and I was gutted to see him go, actually. And I wanted to do a bit of a scouting report and see how he's done this season. He's played a lot of minutes of football for you this season. I looked at his championship stats this morning. He started 35 games in the league. He scored 1 goal, 5 assists, played a lot of minutes. His average rating is absolutely tremendous. Give us an insight, James, into what he's been like this season.
Well, to be honest, quite a lot of people, Wednesday fans, have been saying that he's the best player to play on a blue and white shirt since we came out of the Premier League, which you'll know 25 years ago. That's how long it's been since we've been in the top flight. And that's it, whilst that's a bold statement, I think, it rings true. I think he's been absolutely fantastic for us this season and kind of a real reason why we are where we are in the league. I think the squad as a whole is probably punching above its weight, but I think Shea has a massive part to play in that. He's just, for me, so cool, calm, collected on the ball. He plays in that, as in that kind of defensive midfielder role. He's just like a Rolls Royce. I know that cliche gets rolled out quite a few times, but he just slows the game down, which not in a bad way either. When he picks up the ball, it's just almost like he's got all the time in the world. He seems to always pick out the right pass, whether that is backwards or sideways or it's a forward pass. It always seems to be the right one. And look, he had a poor game against Sheffield United before the international break, but still, his levels are that high. We're just expecting him to be so good every time he steps on the pitch. He's creativity is not quite there, but he doesn't play in that position, so he's not going to be doing that. So when you look at goals and assists, he's not got many, but he's the one that's orchestrating it all and starting the moves off. And I think Danny Rowell likes Shea. Danny Rowell, some of his tactics, you're watching, and gone are the days of the 4-4-2, just lump it up to your front man. There's the in and out of possession stuff, and I feel like Shea can do that with aplomb. And we're just delighted to have him. And I'm not quite ready for coming up against Shea Charles next season in a red and white shirt. I don't think I'm mentally prepared for that, to be honest.
Yeah, his statistics, James, they're outstanding, aren't they? I was looking on FOTMOB this morning and just looking across all his stats are really, really good. Successful crosses, 44 is really, really high. His pass accuracy is tremendous. He's very good at passing the football, isn't he? He moves the ball, like you said, really, really well. What do you think is his biggest attribute this season? What has surprised you about him the most this season? Like his tackle rate's been good actually. He like really, really high. He's won sort of over 50% of his tackles as well. So he's good in a duel as well as his passing ability.
I think it's just his maturity for such a young footballer. I think, as I just mentioned there, the fact that he can slow the ball down and pick out the right pass when it's needed. Yes, he picks up a lot of yellow cards. He's had 9 this season,
Yeah.
and heading. I know that's reset now, so he can get a few more in his final few games. But there was we were sweating a little bit. If he'd have picked up another yellow before the derby, he would have missed the Steel City derby. But I think he didn't pick any yellow cards up in those kind of 3 games where he was going to be faced with a ban. So again, he can adapt his game, and he's he's not just hot-headed and he's just going to fly into every single tackle. I think that's that is, you mentioned about his tackling. Again, playing in that defensive midfielder role, you need someone that can break the play up. And his intelligence shows. He knows when to take a yellow. He knows when to just bring someone down when a break is on. In the past, we've seen that. We've conceded goals where you're shouting, saying, "Just bring him down. Just take one for the team." But he knows how to do that and when to do that as well. So I think his knowledge of the game is second to none for someone who's so young in his footballing career. And I think obviously he's being given an opportunity at Sheffield Wednesday to really stake his claim and show exactly what he can do. And I feel like we've obviously we've given him that opportunity as well, as fans, as a manager, as the other players as well. And he's brought a lot out of Barry Bannon too. I think Barry Bannon's one of those players that if he doesn't trust the midfielder who he's alongside, he tries to do a little bit too much. Whereas we've seen this season that Bannon's more effective further up the pitch, and Shea Charles has allowed Barry Bannon to do that because he trusts him, because he knows that he can leave him and he'll be able to put that tackle in, and he's not having to to cover, which Barry Bannon has had to do in in some of the seasons that we've had him. So not only is Shea Charles good for himself, he's also good for the team as well. And I mean, we all love him. The Wednesday fans absolutely adore him. Like you mentioned, 35 starts. You see him come. He very rarely gets substituted off, but even when he does, people give him a standing ovation on all 4 sides of Hillsborough.
Yeah, he's a great lad. I've met him quite a few times actually. And when the first time I met him, James, he said to me, "You're from TikTok. You're Martin." And I've met him a couple of times since then. So he may tune in and see this. I think he definitely will tune in and see this. There's no doubt about it. He's a viewer of the channel. One thing I like about him that he's a really likable character, isn't he? A really nice, polite young man. He's got a lot of manners about him. You wouldn't say that about everybody in football at times, from fans to players, right across the board. But he's a lovely human being. I like him. Humble. If you notice that from me as well, proper team player, somebody that's good with a fan base.
Oh yeah, definitely. And like I said, we give him all that love back. There was the time in January when we thought that he was going to be leaving and going back to Southampton, and he, that game before, there was going to be potentially his last game, and he came over to the North Stand where I sit, and there was all the fans wanting his signature, and he stopped to take photos with everyone. I mean, I don't know what was kind of done behind the scenes, whether he knew it was going to be his last game or whether he was just playing up to the the narrative that was kind of put out on socials and stuff. But yeah, just to do that, and like I said, we give him a lot of love. He gives us a lot of love back. I think he's enjoyed his time at Sheffield Wednesday. I mean, he's played every single week, which is obviously good. People were saying that he shouldn't have played those games before the derby because he was that important to play against Sheffield United. Which says it all really, as to how highly we rate him. And obviously captaining his national side as well, which just shows how highly how highly regarded he is. And like I mentioned, we would gladly keep him again for another season. It's just a shame that he's not one of our players, really,
Mm,
because I think he's got an excellent future ahead of him.
mm,
Whether that's with Southampton or whether that's whether other Premier League clubs could have
mm.
a look at him. It's not beyond the realms of possibility, to be fair.
Yeah, I've heard that Arsenal are very keen on him. Arteta's looked at him. There's numerous Premier League clubs looking at him. There's no surprise. I was surprised at the lack of trust that Russell Martin actually put in him last season. I thought there was times when he needed to put trust in him and just get his arm around him and believe in him because he clearly had the ability. He had a couple of moments where he didn't have great games, but I think he was so in and out of the side. He wasn't able to get any consistency last season, and he was unable to kind of get Flynn down his position because Russell would only play with like the 1-6. For me, when he went to Wednesday, I thought it was a perfect fit for two reasons. I thought the fact he's going into a great football club and he's going to play with a manager that is a young manager, but he looks like we'll come on to him, Danny, but he looks like a manager that gets the best out of players. Am I right in saying that? He's a proper man manager.
Yeah, we are, shadow of a doubt. We are punching well above our weight in terms of the squad that we've got. We've had lots of injuries. I know every team has injuries, but he's had to work with what he's got. But to say that, for example, Michael Smith have been nowhere near the team. At the start of this season, we were all saying that he needs to go. Callum Patterson, another one, but he started to get a tune out of both of those. Another one,
Mm.
Jeddy Gassama, who plays out on the wing, a really exciting player. I coined him speedboat no driver. He's really quick, but got into the final third, and he'd really struggled to give you that kind of end product. But again, he's bulked up in the summer, and Danny's given him that trust to actually play his game. And not only that, he's been tracking back, which you don't really see a winger do, to be fair. And that's got to have come from Danny. And I just, the frustration is I feel like he's the right manager, but at the wrong time, because I just don't feel, as much as the great stuff that Danny's done in terms of getting us to where we are, us surviving last season, a shot of the playoffs, albeit very slim, and I don't think it's quite going to come off. But had he had better players to be able to implement what he's trying to do, I think there's an element of a little bit complicated for the skill set of the players, and that's no disrespect to the players that we've got. It's just a matter of fact.
In terms of the style he's trying to play, the setup he tries to play, the system he plays.
Yeah, exactly.
What is the system? Tell us, James, that for a Southampton fan tuning in that hasn't seen his sides play. I've watched you play. Explain how does he set up his teams to play?
His preferred setup is a 4-2-3-1, or a slight variation of that. He's had to drop to a back three, mainly because of the defensive injuries that we've had and lack of options at the back. And I can talk to you until the cows come home about the chairman and things that he's not done and everything else. But yeah, he's had to do that, and I don't think that's his preferred style. Although we have been playing better in that as a back three. A little bit more familiarity, I guess. But he wants to play a back four, like I said, a 4-2-3-1. And what you see is all the different rotations in the squad. You'll have a centre back, moving forward, and Shea Charles will drop into that role. Same with Barry Bannon. He'll do the same on the opposite side. And it's just all these rotations, and you get players ended up in different positions. For your wing backs are far further forward than what your wingers are, and everyone's covering each other. So you're watching the game, and initially, if you're not kind of following it properly, you're thinking, why is he over there? Like, what's happened for that to happen? And obviously, then everyone's covering, everyone knows their role, and everyone knows the job. But a few times we've been caught out with that. Players not perhaps understanding exactly where they need to be in that moment. He's got a very much, as most kind of modern teams do now, very much a reset. You'll see James Beadle get hold of the ball and he'll hold it. It's much the annoyance of many of the fans inside Hillsborough, but he's slowing it down, and everyone's getting into the positions. Clearly, stuff that he's worked on in the training ground and stuff. And he's got us playing some of the best football that we've seen. Some of the one touch stuff and pass and move. It sounds really simple, but I mean, football can be a very simple game at times. I think sometimes we overcomplicate it.
It gets overcomplicated. I agree.
Yeah, but he's he's obviously seen stuff. He's got a great pedigree, being at the German national side. He's been at Bayern Munich as well. I think that's one thing where that lets him down a touch is that he's been working with such high quality players. All right, not as a manager, but as an assistant manager, and then you come into Sheffield Wednesday and just not quite got that level of ability, which he's had to adapt to. And look, he's still doing a fantastic job. I'm not going to take that away from him. There is an element of, at the moment, obviously, there's a little bit of, obviously there's the big rumours that he's going to be off to Southampton, and some of the fan base, a little bit, is he doing stuff for his own personal gain versus the good of the squad? Like I mentioned, playing a back five or three centre backs, we seem to play better in that system, but he's insisted on playing a back four. Is that almost like the Russell Martin effect?
Sounds very similar. Guns. Yeah. There's a lot of similarities, isn't there? Russell Martin was very stubborn. He was almost looking ahead, and it was like, I can't change now because this is my philosophy. This is what people are buying into. It's not necessary to the great of the football club. Matt Letizia was on the podcast this week, and he actually came out and said that he was disappointed that he didn't put the football club first. And sometimes you have to put the football club first, and results must come first.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, he has adapted. He's not that stubborn. But I'm just saying, at the moment, when other things come out in the press, and these all the other rumours, it does get you thinking, and you start to wonder, like, is he doing it for that? And obviously, I've got nothing to back that up. But you know what, Danny Röhl, I say all that, and Danny Röhl is one of the best managers that we've had in a very, very, very long time at Sheffield Wednesday. It's just a real shame that he's not being backed by the chairman, because I feel like he could do something really, really special at Sheffield Wednesday.
Is there a breakdown between him and the chairman at the moment? I know there was a bit of talk around January. They're maybe not talking so much. He wanted some reinforcements in January to really kick on and push for the playoffs. Didn't get what he wanted. Is there a breakdown in communication between the two of them?
There was. It depends on what you try to believe. Nothing's been said other than Danny Röhl saying that they're now talking. They weren't talking in January. No players got signed up until kind of the 11th hour, and then we signed a couple. Stuart Armstrong, as a lot of Saints fans will know. We signed Ibrahim Sissoko from Plymouth, and then we re-signed Shea Charles, which some people are clinging onto as a signing, which I think is a bit clutching at straws, to be fair. We signed players that we didn't really need, to be honest. And I think reading between the lines, obviously the stuff about Southampton came out, that Southampton had made an approach, but it had been turned down by the chairman. And I think Danny Röhl had threw his toys out the pram somewhat. I think it's a bit of 6-1 and 6 of the other, in terms of who's at fault with how the things have gone for the club. We're the ones that have lost out massively, as in the fans. We're the ones that have lost. Because stuff should have been done in January and it wasn't. Like I said, they said that they're talking. Again, I've got nothing to back this up, but I just feel like some agreement has been made between the two, because Danny Röhl suddenly changed his tune from saying a lot of need to speak to the chairman, ask the chairman at the fans forum, to then saying, yeah, everything's fine. We've spoken and everything's okay. It was a huge shift in his in the way that it was coming out. So I feel like some agreements they've come to some agreement. As to what that agreement is, I have absolutely no idea. But yeah, we're led to believe that everything is okay between the two. Whether that's the truth or not, who knows?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what unravels, wouldn't it? Quickly touch on Stuart Armstrong. Has he made an impact since he come in? Obviously, come back from Vancouver to play back in the Championship. Well, obviously wanted to come back to England for whatever reason. How's he done?
It was great in the little cameos that he had, and he's been injured, so it was a great signing. We did get warned of his injury record, and a few Southampton fans told me that he might not be able to play Saturday, Tuesday, which obviously Championship football is, which I was okay with that. What I'd seen, he looked good, but then he's got himself injured. I don't know how, as to what the severity of that injury is. I'm sure we'll find out from Danny in his press conference, which is, as we record this, due to take place very, very shortly. But it's a real shame. Do you know what? He's one of the players that, a bit of a luxury player for us. I don't really think we needed him. I think we needed to sign players in other positions personally, but it's great to have. He's a little bit old, if I'm being honest, as well. When you look at the squad that we've got, it's a very aging squad. We didn't really need another aging footballer, but no, what I've seen of him, he looks fantastic. Should have scored against Burnley in the first half. We ended up losing that game 4-0. If he had put the goal away, who knows what that would have done. But yeah, not seen enough for him, to be fair.
Yeah, no, he's an interesting player, Stuart Armstrong. He was totally reliant on fitness and getting runs of games. But yeah, like you say, he struggled to play. Like Shea Charles could play the 2 games a week. He was a young lad and he got a good engine about him, Shea. Where
Shea
like
Charles, let's not forget, he's playing in the Northern Ireland setup as well. So this international break where most of the squad have had a rest, he's played 2 more games. So you look at those 35, I think there's been 3 international breaks, maybe even 4. He's played every single game throughout that. So you can add another 6, 8 games onto the top of that. He's already in the 40s. He'll finish on 50 starts for the season by the time he's finished.
Yeah, it's a brilliant loan move, but it kind of feels to me like a little bit, it's reminding me of Nathan Teller and his period when he went out on loan to Burnley, and then we didn't really want to come back, and then Leverkusen come in and sign him, and that was the end of it. I just have this feeling with Charles, he's really stepped on this season. I hope we see him in a Southampton shirt next season, because I think he'd be brilliant for us and everything that we need, but I'm not convinced by it. I just think there'll be clubs circling around him and we'll be looking to balance books, and I hope we do, but I'm not convinced.
Yeah, I mean, how much do you think he'd be worth, Martin? Like, because we've been talking about that. You signed him for 10 million, didn't you, from Man City a couple of seasons ago now? It's hard to think of how much he'd actually be worth now.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, it's a really good point, isn't it? Is he worth in excess of 15, pushing 20 million? They were talking about Tyler Dibling down here yesterday. Southampton have put an asking price, supposedly, reportedly, according to sources, Talksport, that they want 100 million for him. So they will do it. They're doing everything they can to put anybody off buying this young man. But they do set high price tags a lot, and they're hard to do business with, Southampton. They hit the people in charge said that they want to hold they don't want to get rolled over. They want to hold their values on players, and it'd be interesting to see. It'd be really interesting to see. It's been brilliant to have you on. It's been great to get an insight into Shea, but it's also been really good to get an insight into the manager as well. Whether that happened or not, I still think there'll be clubs. I'm not convinced it'd just be Southampton that want the manager.
Yeah, look, I'm resigned to the fact that he's probably not going to be here next season. If he is, it'd be great, But they also, I don't just want to keep Danny Röhl if there's not going to be any sort of investment behind the scenes. He needs a budget. The chairman needs to come in. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about kind of fans wanting new owners to come at the football club. I mean, that doesn't take that takes a long time for that to happen. I think it's probably too late now for that and keeping Danny Röhl. But he needs a budget to work with. Shea Charles is going to be leaving; he needs to be replaced. James Beadle's going to be leaving. All right, we've got Shea's brother in Pierce, who was a fantastic goalkeeper.
Yeah, I've heard great things about him. Yeah, I've heard really good things about him.
Do you know what? His distribution is second to none. You might have seen some TikToks or stuff on his socials about his distribution. I mean, I know he conceded 5 goals in the game against Sweden, but his passing is brilliant. He comes out, he's been on the bench all season. He comes out, and when he's warming up, if you didn't know he was a goalkeeper, I mean, the giveaway is the gloves, but if you didn't know he was a goalkeeper, you'd think he was an outfield player. And I think, to be fair, I said about the giveaway being the gloves. It don't come out with them on. He looks like an outfield player, just zipping the ball around, and the passing. He's a little bit small, but yeah, he's another great one. And I'm sure, if he's doing the business next season, he'll be another one that clubs will be sniffing around. You never know. You might be able to get his. Shea's brother as well.
We might need a goalkeeper next year. It's a point. We might need a keeper. I think we'll definitely lose Aaron Ramsdale. Whether Gavin Bazunu is ready for Championship football again, I don't know. He's a long-standing injury. He's at Standard Liège at the moment on loan. Don't know how that's worked out, but yeah, we'll probably be looking at maybe it could be a goalkeeper. James, it's been brilliant. What's coming up on the channel this week for you guys at the Wednesday Till I Die podcast?
Yeah, so we've got Cardiff on Saturday, so we'll be talking about hopefully a win in Wales. It's away from home, so it'll probably happen. We have got a decent away
I have
record.
terrible
So
memories of going there last season, by the way. Stuart
yeah,
Armstrong got injured there, actually. That's where he got his injury. He never played for us again. It was his last time he pulled on the pair of boots for Saints, actually.
yeah, we've not had great memories of Cardiff. It was all right last season. Was it the season before that where Will Volks scored an own goal against his former club, which didn't go down too well. But yeah, hopefully we get a win, and yeah, we'll be live on Sunday at 8 o'clock talking about that. We go on lots of tangents on the podcast, and we do have fans of other football clubs that actually do regular listen as well. We like to have a laugh, like to have a joke. So yeah, you can join us there.
It's brilliant. Make sure you go check out James and the guys over at the Wednesday Till I Die podcast. I'm going to put everything in the show notes below. If you're tuning in on YouTube, everything is in the show notes. And if you're listening on audio format, make sure you go check out my social media at footballmartin_, where I will share this content and you can go and follow James and the guys. James, thank you very much for your time.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you to everybody that's tuned in to watch the show. James, what an absolute superstar he was. Absolutely phenomenal. It was great to get an insight into Danny Röhl, but a really good insight into what this show was designed for, to be the scouting report. So we've got an insight into Shea Charles and what he could potentially bring to Southampton if he comes back to the club in the summer, because I think there will be clubs circling around this young man. There's no doubt about that. Give me your thoughts. Drop them in the comments box below as well. Make sure you go give James and his guys a follow. All the links are in the show notes below. And if you're not a member of the Football Martin channel, please do take a closer look at that. We've got some really, really cool stuff coming in the next couple of weeks. My Discord will be available as from next week. So if you're a Patreon member, YouTube member, we're going to link it up so you can get those special perks. I really appreciate the support here on the channel. Thank you for tuning in, and stay tuned because episode 2 will be out later on this weekend.